can't really do a lot of the Black Canary Green Arrow stuff because Black Canary's just getting started out, or at least the Dino Laurel Lance Black Canary. So I mean, I think the Lemire stuff would probably work best with the show, or the Mike Grell Longbow Hunters like late 80s, early 90s run on Green Arrow would probably work the best for the show, and they even kind of did that in the first season, and by like doing like how people like don't call Green Arrow and not using any trick arrows and Green Arrow going around killing people. It's and like no super powered people in it at all. That's very much the Mike Grell run on Green Arrow. So I think that or the Lemire stuff would fit best if you draw stuff from the source material in this universe they established, or at least the universe they established in the first two seasons. But we'll get more into that pretty soon about how the comic book logic and everything. Another thing too, people say about the comics and incorporating stuff from the TV show into the comics, they already have an Arrow comic. So they have the actual Green Arrow comic, but they also have a comic based on the TV show. And it's like, well, you already have that. Why are you putting TV show stuff in the actual Green Arrow comic then? Like, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that. Like, I don't mind them incorporating a little bit of TV stuff into the comic book, but it seems like with this Kreisberg run, it seems like they pretty much just wanted to make it like the TV show. Like, it was too much. And I could see how like the hardcore, fans of the Green Arrow comic book, and they're only fans of the Green Arrow comic book, I could see how they would feel like that was like a bad idea. I can see why they would not be happy about that. Okay, so that's should be the last tangent I'm gonna go on. I swear. Okay, so now we're gonna get back to the characters. So next up we got Laurel Lance, Black Canary. Okay, so the Laurel character has been met with much dislike from the fandom, to say the least. I've never really had a problem with the character. I can understand where people are coming from, but to me, she never really bothered me. If anything, she was just kind of there and didn't really do much for me. But I kind of just felt indifferent, in other words, towards her character. Laurel, she started out season one. She started out all right. I don't think anyone had anything really negative to say about her. She was kind of like the Rachel Dawes character. She's Oliver's ex-boyfriend. She is assistant DA. So that's kind of how she is in season one. Then season two comes around, and I think this is when people started to really have a problem with her character. Is that she starts being written very inconsistently. And part of the arc she goes on the second season. Well, okay, let's just start from the beginning. Okay, so end of season one, um, she's sleeping with Tommy, who is Oliver's best friend. So they're a couple. Uh, Tommy gets killed saving Laurel during the undertaking. So Laurel begins season two all depressed and shit. Still depressed about this. Then I think it's like the third episode in, she gets kidnapped by the Batman villain Dollmaker, who actually showed up in Gotham this season. So these embargoes. So we're probably not gonna be seeing Dollmaker again. Well, anyway, he got killed at the end of this episode anyway. But So Dollmaker's a serial killer that Detective Lance put away into jail, and now he escaped along with Count Vertigo from Iron Heights prison during the undertaking. Big earthquake, big hole in the wall, and they both just walked out. So he's out there. He tracks down Laurel and Detective Lance. They both get kidnapped. Um, and Dollmaker's gimmick is that he turns women into like porcelain dolls, and the process kills them. So he's about to do this right in front of fucking Detective Lance. Like they're both there. She's about to get killed. They get saved. Dollmaker gets killed. So then we find out Laurel's doing drugs, and it's because of what happened with Tommy there getting killed at the end of season one. And it's like, well, didn't like the crazy serial killer guy who like nearly killed you in front of your dad? Wouldn't that like traumatize you enough to do drugs? Who cares about the ex-boyfriend guy? Who gives a fuck about that? That's fucked up shit. You're about to get killed in front of your own dad by some psychopath. Like, I'm sorry. I think that would be a more traumatizing experience, but then it's like totally downplayed, not really even mentioned all that much. So she starts doing drugs. Then that's dropped. Then they got this stupid arc she goes on where Count Vertigo. I don't remember exactly how the plot is, but somehow the city gets poisoned. A bunch of people get sick. The DA gets sick. Meanwhile, Moira Queen's on trial for her involvement in the undertaking, and now Laurel has to take the place of the DA. That would never happen in real life because, of course, Laurel and the Queen family have way too much history together. Like they know each other like on a like a non-professional basis. You know what I mean? They have a pre-existing relationship. Yeah, that's probably the best way to explain it. That would never happen in real life. Never. But whatever. Okay. Again, first two seasons not flawless. All right. But hey, we'll give them a pass on that. So then the drug stuff comes up back again. So again with the inconsistent writing. Now she's back on drugs again after this. Then Sarah Lance comes back. Her sister comes back. She's all like pissy and shit because now her sister's banging her ex-boyfriend and she's acting like a selfish asshole. And I think that's the reason why a lot of the fans didn't like her. But it's like, I think what they were trying to do is that they're trying to show that, she's a drug addict. And a lot of drug addicts act like that. When they're like all fucked up on drugs, they start acting really selfish and weird. So I give them a pass on that. I mean, yeah, it was kind of annoying her character was being annoying, but I think it was a thing where we're supposed to not like her. So anyway, Oliver tells her off, and actually a pretty good scene, well acted scene. Tells her off. She ends up going to drug rehab, and she's off drugs. Okay, so then we have this Birds of Prey episode, and she ends up with Huntress, getting kidnapped by Huntress or something, and Huntress gives her this speech about, letting the darkness in. And after the speech, she goes ahead and she ends up blackmailing someone because, she's letting the darkness in. Okay, so maybe this is the hint that maybe Laurel becoming a villain, or she's gonna have maybe a darker edge to her character or something. Nope, dropped. And that suddenly dropped. Then, going into the finale, she ends up learning Oliver is Green Arrow, and she just becomes another member of Oliver's support team. Which leads us to this season where she witnesses, or at least partially witnesses the killing of her sister. Then she suddenly wants to become a vigilante hero and takes some boxing lessons from freaking Wildcat, Ted Grant, and suddenly she's a fucking street vigilante. Just like that. She got some boxing lessons, some self-defense boxing lessons. So, yeah. Now, there's like a bit of an arc after the 9 episodes. It's this like 3-episode arc where Laurel first starts going around being Black Canary. And for those that don't know, Black Canary is Green Arrow's big love interest, superhero love interest in the comic books famously. Her mom actually originated the Black Canary persona, then it was passed on to her daughter. So the mom's name was Dinah Drake Lance, I believe. And then Laurel is Dinah Laurel Lance. But in context of the show, they just call her Laurel because I guess her mom they call Dinah. But her name in the show, her full name is Dinah Laurel Lance. And they did kind of a clever thing where instead of the mom being the original Black Canary, because then that would imply there was already some vigilante hero before Green Arrow, they did it so it was her sister who is Black Canary first. So that's see, cool. So that's something they're doing something different than the source material, and it worked. Oh, and speaking of that, okay, the source material thing. So I was talking about that counter criticism before, people defending Arrow season 3 and how there is these people defending the use of the Ra's al Ghul character. But there's a lot of people who believe that the original Black Canary in the show, the sister, the Sarah Lance character, was a lot better than Laurel. And I think part of it is because the Sarah Lance character has more in common with the actual Black Canary character from the comic book, and not so much the Laurel character. And plus, her character was written a lot more consistently. And like of the characters that they're starting at a place, which I think this is what they're trying to do, that start at a different place and after a while eventually get to the point where they are like their comic book counterparts, like Roy Harper, Thea Queen, Oliver, and then Laurel. I think of those characters, getting Laurel to the point where she is like Black Canary in the comics, they're gonna have to do the most heavy lifting because the character as she is in the show is not much like the comic book counterpart at all. But anyway, they criticized having the Sarah Lance Black Canary there because it's not like the source material. Right, because remember, same people defending Ra's al Ghul as a villain. Remember that storyline from the comics, the Green Arrow versus Ra's al Ghul storyline? I sure fucking don't. Hey, remember those retarded comics back in the 1940s where fucking Green Arrow faced off against a clown-themed villain named Bullseye? No, not that Bullseye, not the Daredevil Bullseye, not Marvel's Bullseye, but Bullseye, the fucking Joker knockoff, because fucking we gotta make fucking Green Arrow a fucking Batman clone. Remember that? Hey, let's do that on the show, because that's just like the source material. And then if we do that on the show, it'll automatically be better than any original idea that ever came out of that Arrow show. Because, hey, at least that's from the source material. What the fuck? What kind of argument is that?